Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Voices for Tibet. In this video series, we are trying to capture the voices of ordinary Americans, Americans who love Tibet, who have empathy for the Tibetan culture. Our best hope is this, that videos will inspire other friends to support Tibet. Our hope is also that any Tibetan watching these videos will also be inspired, that it will give them hope, because it's over 60 years since the dramatic escape of His Holiness the Dalai Lama across the Himalayas. And somehow we feel that Tibet and the causes of Tibet are sort of slowly fading away from global consciousness. And so to have Voices for Tibet speak up, it gives us new hope. This morning, I'm so happy that I have another old friend, not only of myself, but also of TCF, Pastor Dave Andersen, with us. Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning.
Dave, I want to start off this by requesting you to just tell a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to the Voices for Tibet audience.
Well, I am a retired United Methodist clergy, and I started going to India when I was a young man, initially as part of Christian mission groups, and this was probably about 25. And of course, when I got to India, as it was only a few hours before India converted me, before I converted anyone else. And I fell in love instantly. And part of it was I roomed with a young man who was been part of a group that was going up into Nepal to inoculate people with smallpox.
Okay.
And he was staying at the same seminary where I was studying in Bangalore. And he started talking to me about Tibetans.
Oh.
And that was really my first acquaintance with Tibetan culture. And this young man was, I think he was Baptist, but he was out of somewhere in the East Coast and in the United States where he was born and raised. But clearly, his experience with Tibetans had changed him completely.
Wow.
And it started me on a journey where, it's been a long time.
Right. Dave, that is so interesting because, we've known each other for so long. I didn't know that story. So that was really interesting. So then more recently, even, I know that you have visited, you travel a lot, you have gone to Tibetan settlements, in Kitzel in Clementown, where my home is. I know we get a fair amount of visitors, but my sister Lobsan Derma always remembers Pastor Dave Andersen. You're her big favorite. So I know you were there, you visited the community. Give me a sense of what you felt when you visited a Tibetan community, say like the one at Clementown.
I've pondered this a lot, Karma, because especially on a day like today when we're all still reeling from the visual images of the insurrection at the White House. And I have asked myself many times over the last 40 years what my attachment has been to Tibet and Tibetan culture. And I think that question got answered for me in part in Clementown through the simple recognition of feelings of intimacy and belonging. I mean, I think all of us come into this world looking for family connections and so forth, all of which I was blessed to have those. Many family members on both sides of my maternal side, my paternal side of my family, and I've not lacked for love or anything in those family connections. Right. Something happened in my acquaintance with Tibet and Tibetans. I arrived in Clementown one of the first times after the Lama had passed away. Your friend who had treated ginseng quite
Yeah.
often in her struggles, and I was just I decided to stay through the whole funeral process, which
Right.
I think 2 weeks, and I don't know that I've ever felt more at home. I didn't speak the language. I didn't speak even the rudimentary Hindi that I do now, and it, it it was just one of those remarkable experiences where I realized that whatever else Tibet and Tibetan culture may have or not have, its capacity to connect with people is extraordinary. I know that's vague,
Right.
but I've known so many Westerners who have felt the same thing. Not everyone. I
Right.
mean, you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to listen at a
Right.
level that is more than just superficial curiosity.
Right.
You have to be able to take emotional risks and get involved with people. But I feel, I think I feel as close to your sister and to your younger brother as I do many of my own cousins, maybe more so here.
Right.
And I pay close attention to their lives and to what they're doing. And when I'm with them, I feel a similar regard, a kind of a warmth and a welcome. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
It did, Dave. And in fact, you not only answered that question, but you also answered a bit of what I was going to follow up with. Because, David, with your heart for Tibet and your support to TCF, I also look upon you as a Tibetan activist in some
thank
way.
you.
And so, from that lens, uh, and we are really now getting to the core of this message of Voices for Tibet, I wanted to ask you, for someone listening in, um, from your point of view, what is a good reason to support Tibet and the Tibetan culture and the Tibetan cause?
Well, I think, again, what's on my mind today and on the minds of many Americans is uh, that very point. When we witness the heartbreaking kinds of cultural and political dislocation and conflict that we have been feeling. The message from His Holiness the Dalai Lama and just Tibetan culture in general is
Right.
that, and not all Tibetans agree with this. I mean,
Right.
are
That's
a
also
unified force like any people, but the predominant message is one of, look, there are ways to navigate this life
right.
that involve peace and equanimity and compassion. And violence and disruption and destruction get us nowhere. And it's just been that general feeling that I have experienced from Tibet and Tibetan culture. The message the world so badly needs. And I think some hear it very clearly.
Right, Dave. And I genuinely thank you for this empathy for the Tibetans. A follow-up question is this. So let's say we are fortunate to have people who have empathy for Tibet and Tibetans. In your view, Dave, how can an ordinary American make a difference for Tibetans? In other words, what, in your opinion, is the best way that a person can help a Tibetan? How can you change Tibetan lives?
I think that in my mind, it's very simple. It's not a simple thing to accomplish, but it is certainly a simple question to answer, and that is through education.
Yes.
I have been to India all now since 1976, off and on, and the single most effective way in which people move from difficulty and being marginalized economically and politically is through education. And
Absolutely.
Tibetans have excelled in being a people of exile,
Yes.
in seeking that out. And it's been a tremendous struggle. But where it works is when Americans and British and Europeans and others who have resources to share it through educational programs, in my view. There's lots of things to get involved with, medicine and whatever, and that's great. But the long-term solution is helping children and young people become educated in this changing technical world. That would be my advice.
Absolutely. And Dave, I couldn't agree with you more, simply because my own life as a Tibetan refugee child, my life got transformed because His Holiness the Dalai Lama and then the sponsors who helped me transform my life. So I totally agree with you. And I thank you so much for being this wonderful Tibet supporter, for being a TCF board member, and then today for being on the Voices of Tibet. Thank you so much, Dave, for all your support.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And then I also wanted to say that, for people listening in, when you want to support education, the Tibetan Children's Education Foundation, TCF, we try to connect people through individual sponsorships. But I also wanted to use this forum to say that you can help Tibet in various ways. If suppose your heart is more politically inclined, I wanted to suggest that you reach out to an organization like the International Campaign for Tibet. Or let's say that you're a student with more in your heart than funds in your pocket. How about the Students for Free Tibet? All these are wonderful organizations. I want to thank everyone who support Tibet. Thank you again, Pastor.